Welcome to the Midland Money Mindset. This is a podcast that's all about getting your mind right when it comes to all things money. In every episode, we go deep with engaging guests who provide tangible takeaways and a whole lot of joy along the way. I hope you enjoy these conversations as much as I enjoyed having them. Let's dive into today's show. Well, I have the pleasure today of being with Sam Tejada, president and founder of LIQUIVIDA. I am so excited for this conversation and share it with you. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Hey, how are you, Larry?
I am great. Listen, I want to dive deep here, and you are a true entrepreneur. We love highlighting entrepreneurs on this show, and I'm always fascinated by the entrepreneurial journey because it's never a straight one, and it's always an interesting one. So, we'll talk about LIQUIVIDA and what you're up to today. But can you tell a little, our audience a little bit about, who Sam Tejada is and what brought you to the point of founding LIQUIVIDA?
So, yeah, absolutely. So, Larry, Sam Tejada is a born entrepreneur. You talk to any of my family members, they'll tell you since I was a kid, I was the guy who was always trying to hustle something, even the lemonade stand, right? So it kind of just always was kind of programmed into me. But I also have always had a passion to always be out helping people. So, I ventured through different jobs from high school, from becoming a lifeguard swim instructor to, from being a lifeguard to once I graduated high school, I said, you know what? I want to continue to save lives and help people. And I became a firefighter paramedic here in South Florida. And I served for 12 years as a careered firefighter paramedic running emergency calls. And that awesome schedule allowed me to begin my side hustle, doing the things that I love on the business side, utilizing my medical background. And that's where, LIQUIVIDA came to fruition throughout that process, which I'm the president and founder of. It's a health, wellness, and beauty company where we're taking a proactive, preventative approach to people's health and wellness. And today, fast forward 10 years later from starting that company, LIQUIVIDA, it's become this great multi-million-dollar company selling franchises all throughout the United States.
Amazing. So, I mean, what can you trace back your entrepreneurial bug to something? Were your parents entrepreneurs, or are you just the anomaly in the family?
So no, I mean, I do come from a family of entrepreneurs. Both my parents are architects, and my father had his own architectural firm up north in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm the youngest out of four. So myself as being the youngest child, I was always stuck with mom and dad throughout the day, right?
Mhm.
So even during like summer vacations, I'd have to go to with my dad to his office. So I got exposed to a lot of the things that he would do on a business standpoint, going and purchasing things and going to meetings. And I was always there with him. And I just loved it. My father used to suit up, get very well dressed. I was just like, man, that's pretty cool being an adult who's like, running things, like making
Right.
things happen, making decisions. So, when I was young, around the age of like 10, growing up north where you have the four seasons, I was that kid who would just go door to door and depending what season it was like, hey, can I cut your grass? Can I rake your leaves? Or can I shovel your snow for a few bucks? And in a young age, I remember on those snow days, in a few hours, I'd come back home. And I'll never forget that one time I came back home. It was like a couple hours, and I came back home with like $300 at the age of 10. My parents are like, they're like, what is this? And why does this young kid have so much money? And that's just because I had the hustle in me.
Amazing. So you definitely had some great role models growing up, which is awesome. And, we find that very often. One of the things that you said resonates with me is, you were a career firefighter and you started this side hustle. And I think a lot of people get hung up thinking that if they want to start flexing the entrepreneurial muscle, if you will, that they need to leave what they're currently doing and kind of go all in from the start. And I don't preach or talk about that, that's the case, I think the route you took is a much better route. Find something that you really love and start out small, start delving into that area while you have the safety and security of a full-time position or full-time role, if you will. How did being a firefighter really help you start that side hustle and spring into that role and then fully go all in once you knew you had something?
Well, one thing that you said there is doing what you love. And you don't necessarily have to just quit your full-time job to start a business, right? The one thing that I usually tell a lot of people that are looking to start a business but are scared to leave that full-time job, I tell them, look at that business that you want to start as more as a hobby, right? If you have a hobby that you enjoy doing, you don't have to quit your job to do the hobby. So if you're going to get into business, number one, you should do something that you love if you're going to get into business. So treat it as the hobby, and then as it progresses, then you get to that point where you make that decision to leave that full-time job. Now at the fire department, that job, we worked 24 hours on and we were off for 48 hours.
Right.
So that schedule is pretty unique that allowed actually the majority of firefighter paramedics, on their days off, they typically have some kind of side hustle to supplement their income. So some guys work at the hospital, other guys have pressure cleaning businesses. Me, I've been very passionate about health and wellness. So I decided to get into the health and wellness, arena. So
Yeah. And I agree. I think that's a great way to put it. Is start it out as a hobby because it's something you love, and if it morphs into more, that's going to demand more of your time because it's that much fun and profitable. Then you can start releasing that and moving more full time. And I think a lot of people get hung up on thinking that it's an all or none. They're either all in as an employee or all in the side hustle. And I agree, it doesn't have to be that way.
right.
Um, in your TED talk you shared that relationships were key to starting your side hustle and you did it with only 500 bucks. Can you explain what you mean by that or what you meant by
Yeah.
that?
So everyone always asks that because I've grown the business to the stage where it's at today without any injection of outside capital. And I started the company with $500 in my back pocket. Not the easiest thing to do, but what I actually give most of that success towards are the relationships that I've built throughout the way. So when it comes to building relationships, it's extremely important. Relationships are going to take you to the next stage more than money, right? So part of that is building strong relationships with your vendors, strong relationships with your customers, strong relationships with your business mentors. Strong relationships with your employees. Once you start building those relationships where people build strong trust and there's that integrity and people know that you're an honest business person and what your mission is, and they understand that because that relationship is there, you'll just start seeing how things start to connect and more relationships will actually develop because people are going to actually start talking that word of mouth. And hey, Sam has this business taking care of people's health and wellness. You feeling under the weather? Come see Sam. So the
Mhm.
relationship parts in my TED talk, I go deep into talking about the importance of those relationships and even relationships. This is crazy. People think I'm crazy for this one, but even relationships with your competitors.
Right. I listen. I don't disagree with that. I have two young kids. They're getting older now. They're going to be 18 and 21. But we've imparted upon them from a very young age, basically setting up that network and relationships are key. And I say very often, your network equals your net worth. Because many
Yeah,
times, like you said, you may not need the capital, but you can get anything. You can work towards anything you want or need through that network, right? You can get connections. You could get vendors. You could get new clients or customers. You just have to harness that the right way, and you have to be a giver before a taker. And I think you really can harness a lot of fruits from that labor. So I agree with you. And your competitors are key to knowing what's going on out there, right? To
that's
know what
true.
people are interested in. So I agree. I think knowing that is amazing stuff. So where did you start discovering the benefits of, IV therapy, and then eventually leading you to kind of go down the path of, going down the path of founding LIQUIVIDA?
So, my initial part-time job on my days off from the fire department, I was working with a company in the alternative medicine space where they took a strong proactive preventative approach to the patient's health and wellness. The company was called Cenegenics, and what they did, they catered to some of the most affluent individuals in the globe. And we had about 350 patients here in South Florida. And what I did on my days off, I was the phlebotomist. I'd go to these multi-million dollar homes and I'd go draw blood from these very affluent individuals. And when I was doing that for this company Cenegenics, I started getting exposed to some of these individuals that kept on telling me, these are very wealthy people that have homes in California, Colorado, and all these other places throughout the United States, and they started telling me about them doing IV vitamin therapy back in their place in Cali, Colorado. And they would say the guy who actually does the technician who does the actual IV therapy for them is a firefighter paramedic. So they started putting that bug in my ear saying, hey, you should really look into this. You should probably potentially get into this business. It's really taking off in some of these other states. So once I had like the fifth patient tell me this, right? That's why I started looking at what was going to be my competition. A lot of them are my customers now. And I said, you know what? This is pretty cool. I can see the benefits. I started studying about it and learning from a lot of these other doctors. And I said, you know what? I can do exactly what they're doing, but I can do it better. And that's exactly what I did.
Amazing. So let me ask you this, in terms of, I think that there's a decent amount of misperception, misconception, misunderstanding, however you want to term it, in terms of IV therapy, right? I think there are some, when you start approaching them and talking to them about it, they've heard people using it as, let's say, like a hangover remedy, right? In terms of
Right.
getting out of a funk after a good night out with friends or family. But, my view is that it's a lot more than that. Can you explain, what it really is at its core, that it's much greater than what I think many people think it is from the outset?
It really is a lot more. So, and the hangover stuff, it does work, right? Because you're dehydrated, you have an electrolyte imbalance from drinking the night before. So, but there's a lot of deficiencies that you may have that doesn't include you drinking the night before. So, one of the things that we do at Liquivida, we do a comprehensive blood analysis. And part of that comprehensive blood analysis, we're doing a micronutrients deficiency test. So the human body, when you look at the biochemistry, right, your physiology of your body utilizes 35 different nutrients for it to function on a day-to-day basis, right? So those 35 different nutrients, you're talking about vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that basically help detoxify the body, help build up your immune system, help do everything for you to function on a day-to-day basis. So part of that is us figuring out what those deficiencies are. And these are certain things that we've actually done out of our clinic where we use oral supplementation to see if we can go ahead and fix these micronutrients deficiencies. And a lot of the times, most adults have certain gut issues, right? You have people who have acid reflux, they have
Mhm.
IBS, all kinds of type of issues where it doesn't allow them to absorb those nutrients properly. So when you give vitamins intravenously, you get 100% absorption because you're bypassing the digestive route. And then you can also reach higher therapeutic dosages to give the desired effect to help the actual patient. So different benefits. What we're doing is we're doing it more on the wellness side, where we're taking that proactive approach to the patient's health and really helping people optimize their health so they can go ahead and perform at their best levels.
Right. Now, this doesn't seem like, and forgive me, but this doesn't seem like what you just went through was something that, the average firefighter knows, right? So, it seems like it's much
No.
more in depth than that. So where did you kind of learn this knowledge, or is it just that you've surrounded yourself with a good team that has this in-depth knowledge, or, did you yourself kind of dive deep into this, the functionality and how these interactions work?
So you're absolutely right. This is not like common knowledge that most firemen know about when it comes to IV vitamin therapy. And actually, most doctors, physicians, they don't
Right,
learn
right,
this either. You know, this is something that even the doctors have to go through additional fellowship to understand the science and the medical care that can be given with nutrients IV infusion. So I did the same thing that any medical provider would do to learn. You know, I actually attended a lot of these accredited courses by some of the OGs in the space, some of these doctors that started 20 years ago, that have done a lot of case studies, that have actually done a lot of research. And I was flying around different states to just start learning, understanding it. Now, today, it's the information is readily available. When I first started 10 years ago, this was new, right? The,
right.
the information wasn't really out there. So now you got companies like mine, LIQUIVIDA, that's getting that information where it becomes a lot easier for other people to get in.
Right. Great. So, one of the things we talked about a few minutes ago was the importance of relationships. And, one of the most important relationships that any business owner could have is with their customers, clients, families they serve, however you want to term that relationship. How do you feel that business owners can build a strong bond with those folks? Because I think that's something you've done a great job at.
Yeah. So initially, when you start your business, you're going to do one thing that every initial business owner, when they're starting off, they end up doing it. And you're going to work in the business rather than on the business. So when you're working in the business, it allows you that opportunity to actually nurture every client, connect with them, see what their needs are, and build those relationships with those customers where they actually feel like they're a part of your business, right? You want to make them feel like they're part of that, what I call Liquivita family. We're here to
Right.
take care of you, right? So now when you grow, that's where you got to get very strategic with a lot of the different retention programs and marketing that you do, where a lot of these customers can connect in multiple different ways rather than just with an individual. And obviously, training your team members to be able to actually put in that type of work of building those relationships, because once you start growing, then it's with so it kind of rotates from there, where now you're working on the business rather than in the business.
Right. And you talked a minute ago, and I kind of alluded to some of the pros of doing this, but you talk openly as you did today about building those same relationships with competitors. When you do that, what are your goals there? What are you looking to achieve by having those good relationships with those competitors of yours?
When you look at the competitors, and when I first got into my industry, and there was a lot of other people that were also starting to do the same thing that I was. You know, one of the things that we all talk about is we want to take a different approach to the world of medicine. We want to change the course of medicine, and we want people to take more of that proactive, preventative approach to their health and wellness. So if I'm preaching that, and my competitors are preaching that, why are we going to be at each other's throats, right? If we want to change the course of medicine, we're not going to do it being divided. We have to work together to be able to actually accomplish those goals. So for me, my goal from the beginning was, you know what, I'm going to build strong relationships with my competitors so we actually make that change that we're all talking about and work together, collaborate, learn from each other, right? And now that, that's what we really have built this industry into. We have an association that a lot of the CEOs are part of. I'm the chairman of the association. There's some of the other leaders in the industry that are on the leadership advisory board as well too, and we're actively running clinical research through our scientific advisory board collectively together. We're not sharing any kind of intellectual property or any kind of trade secrets that we're doing within our business, but we are all working towards the same goal, and it's a beautiful thing seeing us work together doing it.
It just sounds like a great abundance mindset, which, if all tides, all tides raise all boats, right? That kind of
Right.
philosophy, which is fantastic. And I think what you were referring to is you were named to the leadership advisory board of the American IV Association. Is that what you were
Right.
referring to earlier?
That is correct.
And is that a new association that you've helped bring together, or just something you've gotten involved with that's been around for a little bit?
So it's been around for a little bit, and I decided to get involved with a few other CEOs of leading organizations in the industry. And in January, I was appointed as the chairman.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. Helping lead and move the profession forward, which is
Right.
like you said, what it's all about. You know, so you recently wrote "How to Win in Modern Wellness," right? What was the impetus? Why did you write the book? You have a successful business, you're growing, you've been doing it for 10 years. Why'd you feel the need to write the book, and why now?
Well, we were just talking about building relationships with the competitors. And as you can see over here on how to win in modern wellness, you actually see the majority of these competitors all here in the book. So what I did after years of being in the industry and building these relationships, what I decided to do was take a lot of these sharp minds and actually put them in the book, right? And talk about how we're all winning in the world of modern wellness, because what's happening is a lot of medical practitioners are getting out of that traditional medicine from working in the emergency room, et cetera. And they're trying to figure out how to actually, step into this industry. So what we've done is we've all talked about our journeys and how we're doing it and what we're offering and some of the different roadblocks that we've, encountered throughout that process. But this is also end consumer facing because it talks about a lot of the different modalities that all of these different wellness businesses are offering as well too, because we're all of us are competitors, but we all offer something that's a little bit different as well too. So that was
Right.
my motivating factor, is actually taking these relationships with the competitors, and what I ended up doing is giving them all a chapter in my book.
Amazing. So again, you give them a voice and a pedestal, and you elevate the entire profession, which is great. Do you believe that you're seeing this influx of people into these types of medicines or these types of treatments? Like you said, people are moving away from traditional medicine. Do you feel like a lot of that has to do with the state of our healthcare system in general?
I think so, but also, people are becoming more educated on how to take care of their health. When you look at the wellness industry, back in 2022, the year closed out for the wellness industry at about $3.4 billion. 2023 closed out at about $5.8 billion, and it's just going up, 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 and up. And as you may already know, Larry, you go back 10, 15 years ago, that you could barely find a gym around your house. Now you got a gym in every single corner. You got more gyms than McDonald's out there. So yeah, the wellness industry is growing. People are more health conscientious. And I tell you, when we had COVID and the pandemic happened, that really made people open up their eyes and realize, hey, you got to take care of your health, because God forbid one of these things come around again. The people that were dropping dead were the people that were very unhealthy.
Right. How did you handle that environment? Because traditionally people came to you, right, for these treatments, or
Right.
so were you sending people out to people's homes in response to COVID, or how did you react as a business owner?
So here in Florida, we were actually labeled as an essential
That's
service, and as you
right.
can see with my fire department gear back here as a retired fireman, um, one of the things that I did was take care of all the first responders and do the IV vitamin therapies, help boost up their immune system. So yeah, we stayed open. Our business actually took off. We actually more than doubled our revenue during COVID.
Amazing. So when did I know you have a franchise model now. So when did you decide to delve into the franchise model, and what was the reasoning behind that?
So the kid question on that one, man. So that's a loaded question, but I'll give you the short answer really quick here. And so the reason why I decided to franchise is initially when I decided to start trying to bring the business to the masses, and I started doing partnerships, more of like licensing deals. And I tell you, when they say you learn from your failures, some of those licensing deals were just like, it was chaos. I had people stealing from me. I had people doing all kinds of stuff, and I wasn't well protected. So speaking with our partnered attorneys, they said, "Hey, you know what? This type of business here, for you to be well protected and really create the structure that you need, you should franchise." And that's what we did. In our business, especially when you're trying to duplicate something that's very complex an actual medical clinic with alternative treatments that most medical professionals don't even know of. There's a lot of training, there's a lot of operation manuals, the SOPs. So it's pretty much a franchise structure to begin with. And really that's what's given us the protection that we needed to be able to scale our business.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things as an entrepreneur is we have to learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
It's not going to get rid of us, but we have to learn from those challenges and move on, right, and correct them. But I think one of the issues or one of the challenges I see as somebody who has such an abundance mindset. You've seen people first, right? How, as you grow through the franchise model, or have you found it to be a challenge to keep the culture similar and in line to the way it was when it was just, you in control of the organization versus franchise? Do you see that as a challenge to keep that same culture that you were originally founded upon?
It's a huge challenge. It is not easy because now what you have are a bunch of other business owners that have their own type of opinions, if you will, that even though you put them through a lot of extensive training, the onboarding and 1 week training where they fly into town, people still try to deviate from that. So, the what you have to do is this goes back to the relationships, building strong relationships with your franchisees so they can really understand what your vision is and what the mission of the company truly is. And then from there, your goal is the more training that you offer to your franchisees and the in service for their teams, you try to keep that type of you know uh, business culture in place.
Right. Yeah. I always think when I see here, and look at franchise businesses, I always think of like Undercover Boss, and when they go into some of those franchises, and Joe decides that there's this better way of doing it, which is totally against what the current way,
Yeah,
and it just doesn't create that same experience, which
right.
is always a challenge. What advice do you have for those who have a business who are potentially considering the franchise model? I think as somebody who's gone through some of those, ups and downs through this process, what advice would you have for them? I think I know one piece, going back to the protection piece, but is there more than that you would have them think about?
Well, the first thing that I would say is if you're deciding to franchise your business, be ready, right? It's a whole nother beast. It's a whole nother beast on the accounting side, on the operational side, even selling a franchise. You're regulated by the FTC. There's certain things that you can do and you can't do. Even up till today, many years later of franchising, I still get surprised by half of the stuff that my franchise attorneys tell me. So, um, my recommendation is getting a coach, right? Get someone who understands the world of franchising, and even if you have to pay them and put them on a retainer, do that. Learn, watch, podcasts, YouTubes of people that have done franchising, and really get a good understanding of what it's going to be becoming a franchisor.
Yeah. I think many people look at franchises and, as a franchisee, and they think it's easy, they'll automatically step in. But, I learned many years ago what a UFOC was, which I had no clue what that was. But now I know what it is. So it's not an easy read to kind of figure out what you might be getting yourself into from the other side of the equation and getting into the franchise model, right?
Yeah, yeah. As a franchisee, one of the things that I see people that want to buy a franchise, the number one thing that they have to also keep in mind if you're thinking about buying a franchise is you still got to put in the work. The franchisor is not going to go there and do the work for you. They're going to provide you the tools and ammunition for you to be successful. They're going to have a lot of the assets, that they've created for branding purposes, marketing purposes, but you still got to put in the work. Nothing's going to be given to you.
Yeah, they'll give you the tools and the ammunition, but you gotta pull off the mission when all is said and done, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so Sam, listen, we're all about joy, and, it sounds like LIQUIVIDA is all about, adding joy to people's lives, which we're all about, and making them healthier and being in a position to enjoy life better. So, we ask each of our guests the same last question, which is, what did you do today that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
Larry, earlier this morning, so I'm a guy who loves to help people. Hence, being a lifeguard, being a firefighter, paramedic, and then being in the medical field, helping people. I have a huge passion in helping business owners get through certain roadblocks. And this morning, I had a buddy of mine who is a fairly new entrepreneur who, reached out to me, and he was hitting that point where he was really struggling and he was getting too deep in his head about the situation. And there was a few things that I was able to share with him. And actually, what I ended up doing, I shared my business mentor's Instagram page, which my business mentor, he um, he puts a lot of effort on the importance of addressing your emotional fitness, not mental health, right? Emotional fitness throughout the succeeding process as an entrepreneur. And his content is fantastic. My business mentor, his name is Yadik Tadla. And he ended up following his page and watched a few videos. He said, Sam, his videos are talking directly to me. He says, my whole mindset has changed. And that's how I started off my morning. And starting off my morning like that, knowing that I was able to do that for another business owner, that it put me in the best mood. That is the most helping people, and seeing that success from it is the most rewarding thing that you can have in business.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%, and I'm glad that your day started off that way, because that's amazing. And listen, Sam, it's been a pleasure having you on, and we're going to have all of your information and contact information in the show notes. But if people want to, learn more about you, connect with you, learn more about Liquivida, or get your book, How to Win in Modern Wellness, what's the easiest and the best place for them to connect with you?
Well, the easiest way to find me is just Google me, Sam Tejada, right? And I'll pop up, right? I do good on my marketing. So, and then you can always find me at samtejada.com or on my Instagram page, which is Sammy underscore Tejada. And then the book, you could always find it on Amazon, which is How to Win in Modern Wellness.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sam. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and enjoy the day.
Larry, I appreciate it. Likewise.